My stepmom demanded I cook for her 3 kids and be her free nanny, but when I refused, now I live like a stranger in my own home, while my dad watches silently, and she threatens to kick me out at 16. I'm 16 years old. I work part-time at a coffee shop near school. And honestly, I need to get this off my chest, because the situation at home has reached a ridiculous point. It all started like 4 years ago when my mom got sick, but things got really bad about a year ago when my dad married Nicole, and now I basically live like a stranger in my own house, buying my own food, and cooking only for myself, while they look at me like I'm the villain of the story. But let me tell you everything from the beginning, because you need to understand the full context to see why I flat out refuse to do what they're asking me to do. When I was 12 years old, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and things got bad pretty quickly. She had always been the one who took care of everything at home, meals, cleaning, helping me with homework, all that stuff. But when she started chemo, she literally couldn't even get out of bed most days. And my dad, well, he worked all the time, and when he got home, he would kind of lock himself in his room or stay with my mom, but without really doing much. So, basically, at 12 years old, I had to learn to figure things out on my own. I started making my own lunches for school because nobody else was going to do it, and at first they were super basic, like peanut butter sandwiches or whatever I could find in the pantry, but over time I got better at it. My mom taught me some things when she had good days. She'd tell me how to make this or that, and I took mental notes because I knew I was going to need them. My mom died when I was 13, almost 14, and it was horrible, obviously. I'm not going to go into details because it's still hard to talk about, but what happened after that was my dad basically emotionally disconnected from everything. He would go to work, come back, watch TV, and go to sleep, and that was it. He never asked me if I had eaten, never cooked, never offered to help me with anything. I kept making my own lunches, started cooking simple dinners for myself, did my own laundry, basically raised myself the last year before he met Nicole. And honestly, I was okay with that. I mean, it wasn't ideal, but I managed. I had my routine, my responsibilities. I was doing well in school, got my part-time job, and I felt like at least I had control over my life. So like 2 years ago, my dad met Nicole somewhere, I think on some app or something, and they started dating. At first she was nice, tried to connect with me, asked me things about school and stuff, but I always kept my distance because, I don't know. I was still processing my mom's death, and I wasn't ready for someone to try to replace her. Nicole has 3 kids from a previous marriage, twins who are now like 6 years old, I think, and an 1-year-old daughter. When my dad told me they were getting married and that they were going to move into our house, I was just like, okay, whatever. Because honestly, I was already so emotionally disconnected from my dad that I didn't care what he did with his life. They got married like a year and a half ago, more or less, and the first few months were weird but manageable. The house was suddenly full of people. There was noise all the time. The twins ran around everywhere making messes, and Nicole's daughter, who's named Emma or something, was always watching videos on her tablet at full volume. I basically stayed in my room when I wasn't at school or work, kept making my own meals, washing my own clothes, and tried to stay out of everyone's way. Nicole didn't say anything at first, but I noticed she looked at me weird when I made my lunch or when I cooked something just for myself, like she was waiting for me to offer to make food for everyone or something. About a year after they got married, Nicole started making comments. One day, I was making my lunch for the next day. I think it was a chicken wrap or something, and she came into the kitchen and said, "Oh, that looks so good. I wish someone made lunches like that, for my kids." And I kind of just looked at her and kept doing my thing because, it wasn't my problem. But she kept going, said something like, "It must be hard for you to do all this alone. Imagine if you had to do it for more people." And I just said, "Well, I don't do it for more people, so I don't have to imagine it." She went quiet, but I could see she didn't like my answer. After that, she started asking me directly. One Sunday morning, I went down to the kitchen to make myself some eggs, and she was there with the twins, and she said, "Hey, since you're going to cook, could you make something for the kids too? They're hungry and I have to get ready to go out." And I said, "No, sorry. I'm only making for myself." And she got all defensive and said, "It's just a small favor. It's not going to kill you to help." But I stood firm and said, They're not my responsibility. You're their mom. Eggs, ate them in my room and left. The thing is, Nicole didn't give up. Not at all. She started using her kids to make me feel guilty. She'd send them to ask me things like, "Can you make us a sandwich?" Or "Can you help us with homework?" And I always said no, not because they were bad kids or because I hated them, but because I knew exactly what Nicole was doing. She was trying to turn me into a free babysitter and her personal chef. My dad never said anything about it. When I mentioned to him what was happening, he just said things like, "Well, it would be nice if you helped a little. We're a bigger family now." But he never forced me to do anything, just kind of suggested I should be more cooperative. Nicole started getting super passive-aggressive. She made comments all the time about how selfish I was, about how when she was my age, she helped with her younger siblings all the time, about how family helps each other. One day she even said in front of my dad, "I don't understand how someone can be so ungrateful when they have a roof over their head." And I almost exploded, but I held back because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me angry. But honestly, ungrateful? I had been taking care of myself since I was 12. I paid for my own food with the money I earned at my job, washed my own clothes, cleaned up my own messes, and I was the ungrateful one? Things escalated when Nicole started asking me to watch the kids. One Friday, she told me, "I need you to stay with the twins tomorrow. I have things to do, and your dad is going to be working." And I said, "No, I have plans," which was true because I had made plans with some friends from school. She got mad and said, "Cancel them, family is more important." And I told her, "They're not my family, they're your kids. Get yourself a babysitter." She left furious and told my dad that I had insulted her, which wasn't true. I had just been honest. My dad came to talk to me and gave me a whole speech about respect and family cooperation, and I told him, "Dad, I've been taking care of myself for 4 years because you weren't there to do it. And now you're asking me to take care of 3 kids who aren't even my siblings?" He didn't know what to say and just left my room. Then Nicole started with a new tactic. She'd leave the kitchen a complete mess when she knew I was going to cook, or leave dirty dishes in the sink right when I needed to use it. One day, I found that she had used all my clean pots and left them dirty on the stove, and when I asked her why she hadn't washed them, she just said, "I thought you could do it since you were going to cook anyway." Like, seriously? I started washing the pots because I had no choice if I wanted to eat, but I was furious. She also started asking me to help her daughter with homework. Said I was good at school and that it would be good for Emma to have extra help, but I knew what she really wanted was to have more free time for herself. The biggest confrontation up to that point happened like 6 months ago. Nicole asked me to make dinner for the whole family because she was tired, and I said no, that I had my own food planned. She started yelling that I was a member of this family and that I needed to contribute, and I yelled back that her kids were not my responsibility, that I didn't ask for them to move into my house, and that if she wanted someone to take care of her kids, then she or my dad should do it. She said I was an ungrateful and selfish teenager, and I said she was manipulative and only married my dad to have free help with her kids. My dad heard everything and came to intervene, separated us and sent me to my room. And that night, my dad came to talk to me and basically told me Nicole was right, that I should help more with the kids and with house stuff. I said, "Dad, I already do everything for myself. I make my own food, wash my own clothes, clean my own room. I even pay for my own food with my job. What more do you want me to do?" And he said, "Well, now we live with more people, and we all need to make sacrifices." And I said, "Sacrifices? Where were you when I needed help after Mom died? You disappeared, Dad. You left me alone, and now you want me to take care of your new wife's kids like it's my job." He went quiet and then just said, "I hope you reconsider your attitude," and left. After that conversation, things got worse. Nicole stopped trying to be nice at all. She didn't even pretend anymore. She ignored me most of the time, but when she had to talk to me, it was pure hostility. One day, she told me that if I wasn't going to help with the kids, then I couldn't eat the family's food. That if I wanted to be independent, then I could be completely independent. And I said, "Perfect, that's what I'll do." So I started buying all my food with my own money. I had a small section in the fridge with my stuff marked, and I cooked only for myself. The first few days, Nicole seemed satisfied, like she thought I was going to give in, and beg her to let me eat with them again. But when she saw I was perfectly fine cooking my own stuff, she started getting annoyed again. The situation reached a ridiculous point like 2 months ago. I got home from work on a Tuesday around 7 at night. I was hungry, and I started cooking pasta with a sauce I had bought. The twins were in the kitchen, and one of them said, "Smells good. What are you making?" And I said, "Pasta. But I'm only making for myself." Nicole heard and came into the kitchen furious, yelled at me. How was it possible that I was cooking only for myself when her kids were hungry? What kind of heartless person does that? And I told her, a person who's not responsible for your kids. You're their mother. You cook for them. She said she didn't have time because she had been working all day. And I said, I was also working and at school, but I still managed to cook for myself. Maybe you should organize yourself better. My dad arrived right when she was about to explode, and she immediately started telling him how horrible I was, that there was food in the house but I wasn't sharing with the kids, that they were hungry and I didn't care. My dad looked at me and said, "Can't you really just make a little more pasta for the kids?" And I said, "Dad, if I start doing this, it's never going to end. Nicole is going to expect me to cook for them all the time, and I'm not going to do it." He sighed and said, "Sometimes I don't recognize you. Your mom would be disappointed in how you're behaving." And that hurt more than I want to admit, because my mom taught me to take care of myself precisely because she knew she wasn't going to be there forever, and now my dad was using her memory to manipulate me. I went to my room with my plate of pasta and ate it all there, crying a little if I'm honest, because the mention of my mom really affected me. But it also made me more determined to keep my boundaries, because I knew what was happening wasn't right, that Nicole was trying to turn me into a substitute parent for her kids, and that wasn't fair. The next day, Nicole left me a note in the kitchen that said, "If you're not going to be part of this family, then you're welcome to find another place to live." Like, was she threatening to kick me out? I'm 16 years old. I can't just go live on my own. And she knew it. It was just another manipulation tactic. The following weeks were tense. The atmosphere in the house was horrible. Nicole and I didn't talk at all. My dad tried to stay neutral but was clearly on her side, and the kids probably felt the tension but didn't understand what was happening. I kept with my routine, went to school, went to work, came home, cooked my own food, did my homework, and stayed in my room. One Friday, Nicole and my dad asked me to come down to the living room, said we needed to have a family conversation. I went down and they basically held an intervention for me, both of them sitting on the couch looking at me like I was the problem. Nicole started by saying things couldn't continue like this, that I was causing division in the family, and that I needed to start contributing. She said it wasn't fair that she had to do everything alone, that taking care of 3 kids was a lot of work, and that I, as the oldest child, should help. And I said, "But I'm not the oldest child of your kids. I'm your stepson, and I have no obligation to take care of them." My dad said, "Technically, we're a blended family now, and we all need to work together." And I said, "Okay, so what are you guys doing to take care of me? Because since Mom died, I've basically taken care of myself. Neither of you has asked me if I need help with anything. If I'm okay, nothing." Nicole said, "Well, you're 16. You're supposed to be independent, but the kids are small and need help." And I said, "Exactly. Your kids need help from you, not from me." The conversation went in circles for like an hour, them insisting I should do more, me standing firm that it wasn't my responsibility. Finally, Nicole said, "Look, either you start helping with the kids and with family meals, or we cut you off completely. No using our food, no using house services like internet or cable, nothing." My dad nodded, like backing her up, and I just laughed because it was so absurd. Like, were they punishing me for not wanting to be a free babysitter? I told them, "Okay, do whatever you want. I'm going to keep buying my own food and doing my own things. And if you want to cut off my internet, well, I'll go to the library to do my homework." "I don't care," Nicole said. "You're going to change your mind when you see how hard it is." And I said, "I've been doing it for years. I think I'll be fine." Since then, I basically live like a tenant in my own house. I have my room, I buy all my food, cook only for myself, wash my clothes, and avoid interacting with Nicole and my dad as much as possible. The kids sometimes ask me why I don't eat with them or why I don't play with them, and I always try to be kind and tell them I'm busy or I have things to do, because I don't want them to think it's their fault. But Nicole tells them things. I've heard her tell them that I don't love them or that I'm selfish, which makes me angry because she's using her own kids to try to manipulate me. Last Friday, there was another big confrontation. Nicole told me in the morning before I left for school that night I needed to make dinner for everyone because she had plans. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I have my own plans. She said, cancel them. This is more important. And I said, no, it's not. And I left. When I got home at night around 8, apparently she hadn't cooked anything, expecting me to give in and do it. But obviously, I didn't. The kids were eating cereal or something, and Nicole was furious. She yelled at me that I was useless, that I was worthless, that I basically wasn't part of the family anymore if I wasn't going to behave like it. My dad was there, and I didn't say anything to defend me, just stood there looking at the floor. And I exploded. I told them that if that's how things were going to be, then perfect. I didn't want to be part of a family where they used me as free labor. I told them I had been taking care of myself since I was 12, that I had learned to cook, to clean, to do everything necessary without anyone's help, and that I wasn't going to let them turn me into the substitute parent for 3 kids who weren't my responsibility. Nicole said, then you're on your own, don't count on anything from us. And I said, I've never counted on you guys anyway. My dad finally spoke and said, son, please, just try to be more cooperative, but I just looked at him and said, you stopped being my father 4 years ago when you decided it was easier to ignore me than deal with your own problems, so now that's my life, I guess. I live in the same house as them, but completely separate. I buy my own food, cook for myself, take care of all my stuff, and basically count the days until I turn 18 and can really leave. Nicole gives me dirty looks all the time. My dad avoids me because I think he feels guilty, but not guilty enough to do anything about it. And the kids are still kids, oblivious to all the drama. Sometimes I feel bad for them because it's not their fault to be in the middle of this, but I can't give in because I know if I do even once, Nicole is going to expect me to do it always, and I'm going to end up being her free domestic employee for the next 2 years. The truth is, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. There are moments when I think maybe I'm too stubborn, that maybe I should help a little just to keep the peace. But then I remember everything that happened. How my dad emotionally abandoned me when I needed him most. How Nicole from the beginning saw me as a useful tool instead of as a stepson. And I realize I have the right to keep my boundaries. I didn't ask for this situation. I didn't ask for my mom to die. I didn't ask for my dad to marry so quickly, someone who has 3 kids. And I definitely didn't ask to become a family babysitter and cook at 16 years old. So here I am, cooking my own dinner again while the rest of the family eats together in the dining room, feeling like a stranger in my own house, but also feeling proud that I can take care of myself. Nicole can call me selfish all she wants. My dad can say I'm being difficult, but I know the truth. I'm doing what my mom taught me. I'm taking care of myself because nobody else is going to do it.